So yesterday I took the day off from making videos, and this gave me the opportunity to play a bit more of the game. And so I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV, and I've joined a free company. And a free company is the equivalent of a guild or a clan. And someone in my free company asked me, "How are you liking the game so far?" And I respond saying, "It's been a blast. I'm having a lot of fun. This is great." And then they respond back to me by saying, "Don't worry. I know that the game might be a slog right now in the base game in a Realm Reborn, but it picks up later in the later expansions. It picks up in Heaven's Ward, it picks up in Stormblood, it picks up in Shadowbringers and in Endwalker." And they told me not to worry, it's going to get better. And I kind of scratched my head because I was like, I'm enjoying the game. So why are you telling me it's a slog? I don't understand. But this is a sentiment that has been around in the community for a while now. And truth be told, I had tried Final Fantasy XIV almost a year ago now, and I had already heard the sentiment. It had existed for since then that the game is slow and the game is a slog, and for the first 50 to 100 hours, it's going to be that way until you get into Heaven's Ward and then the game gets good. And I understand where the sentiment comes from. If a Realm Reborn is good, but Heaven's Ward is subjectively better and the expansions afterwards are subjectively better, people, because of that juxtaposition, will say that A Realm Reborn is bad and that these are good. However, I think it's a lot more productive to say that A Realm Reborn is good and the later expansions have iterated on the formula that A Realm Reborn has put in place and perfected it and have improved on the formula, but that doesn't mean the base formula was broken or that the base version was bad. It's kind of like how you can look at Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Dark Souls is a very good game, and it's kind of rougher around the edges, and it's not as advanced and open world as Elden Ring is. And so Elden Ring took the formula of the Souls games and From Software learned from each title, and they've enhanced the formula and they've iterated on it to perfect it more and more. And now we have Elden Ring, and I kind of think that Final Fantasy is the same way. Now, truth be told, I haven't gotten to Heaven's Ward yet. I'm still in A Realm Reborn, but it seems to be the common sentiment that these later expansions, quote unquote, pick up. And so I think it's a lot more productive to look at the situation and instead of saying A Realm Reborn is a slog and the later expansions are good or better, I think it's more productive to say A Realm Reborn was good and then it only gets better from there. And when I first tried the game almost a year ago now for the first time, because I went into it thinking it was going to be a slog and thinking it was going to be slow, because this is what I've heard around the community and this was the common sentiment, it paradoxically made it a slog by me trying to go fast. Now, let me explain. As a lot of people say in the community, Final Fantasy XIV is an RPG first and an MMO second. And so the game heavily relies on the MSQ, especially for new players, to build investment and build a love for the game. And the MSQ stands for the main story quest, which is the main story in the game. And since people told me when I first tried the game and fell off almost a year ago now, that the game was a slog, my mindset going into the game was, okay, well, if it's a slog, then I might as well go fast so I can get through the slog, right? And so I get into the game with the intention of getting past A Realm Reborn as quickly as I can so then I could get into the later expansions. And when I do that, what ended up happening was I missed a lot of the context that would have made the game enjoyable because I'm just trying to get past it. So when the intro cinematic for A Realm Reborn played, I was like, okay, whatever, let's get past this. And then the game starts, and people have told me you should read, but they have also told me that it's a slog. So what am I doing? I'm skimming. I'm not looking things up. And to make matters worse, a lot of the dialogue in A Realm Reborn is very old English, and a lot of words are very specific to that game and aren't words that I know the definitions of. So that make matters worse. And so I'm going through the game, and because I have no context in a game that's all about context and all about story, it made it feel like a slog. But more recently, when I've hopped back onto the game, and now that I actually am really enjoying it, because I'm taking it a lot slower, it feels less slow. Because I'm taking it a lot slower, it feels less like a slog. And the big changing factor in that experience is me maintaining a sense of context. Now, let me explain it a little bit more. In the intro cinematic for A Realm Reborn, it's kind of setting you up for the rest of the story. So before you even start the game, you should kind of know like where it is you're starting, why you're starting there, and just a really quick summary on the intro cinematic. You have two armies. One army is the Eorzean army, and they're going up against the Garlean army, and then they're fighting, and then the Garlean army is trying to win, and so they're trying to pull the moon, literally the moon, out of the sky down to Eorzea, and then they're doing so, and then the moon kind of explodes, and then it like wreaks havoc on the whole of Eorzea, which is the continent that you're on, and then it deletes the Eorzean army, it deletes the Garlean army. You should just watch a cinematic, honestly. And then they tried, and then once the moon explodes, this big dragon comes out called Bahamut, and he just like deletes everybody. And so then they're trying to retreat, and then there are these special boys that like are like doing some like weird magic to try to contain the dragon. And so then they like make a new moon like around the dragon, and then they try to contain the dragon, but then the dragon breaks out of it. And so then they teleport away, and then the story starts. You know, I mean, this is a really crude summary. You should watch the cinematic for yourself. And then literally just from the cinematic alone, I got, if considering that I had decided to slow down and try to understand what was going on, that alone like created emotional investment, and I almost teared up just watching that, just seeing like the strife and the will that the Eorzeans had to protect their land. You know, like the story starts emotional right off the bat, right before you even get into the game. And so, knowing the starting context, and below in this video, I'm going to link the starting cinematic for A Realm Reborn. I'm going to link a lore video that's a couple hours long, but you don't have to watch the whole lore video. Just watch the first few minutes. It'll give you context before you start getting into the game. And having that context is going to make the game more enjoyable. Now, something else that made the game more enjoyable to me as well was understanding a lot of the words that's used in the dialogue. And so I have two monitors. And on my second monitor, I opened up a tab of Google. I had the Google search engine open. And every time I didn't understand a word in game, I would look it up. I'd look up, so what does this word mean? What does calamity mean? What do these words mean? And so then I can maintain that sense of context while I'm going through, and that can help me get invested in the plot and know what's going on. The moment you don't know what's going on is the moment it becomes a slog. That has been my own personal experience. Now, some words you won't know because, or some words you won't be able to search up in the dictionary because they're words that are very specific to the game, such as Sahagin, for example, or Bahamut, or words like that. And so also being able to look things up in the wiki, because there is a wiki for Final Fantasy XIV, and to know what these things are very helpful. Like Sahagin are fish people, or beast tribes. Like what are beast tribes? Things like that. And so you're going to want the dictionary for the Old English words. And using the wiki helped me kind of keep context with some words that are specific to the game. And something else that kind of helped me maintain context in that game is understanding the pronunciations. Because I'm not going to lie, a lot of the things in that game are hard to pronounce. Like Mitoke, you know, like Rogadin. Like these words are not intuitive to read. And I think that's because they've been translated from Japanese. And so they're not English words to begin with. And so also looking up how do I pronounce this, how do I pronounce that will help you remember the story and keep that context. Because if you can't verbalize it in your head, or at least for me, if I couldn't verbalize these words in my head, they had less significance and I wasn't able to kind of like piece the story together as well. So that's something else that really helped a lot too. And since I took some time off the game, and you know, sometimes life gets busy, sometimes you're going to have to take a week off, maybe a month off, maybe a couple months off, and in my case, almost a whole year off. Before you come back in, you're going to lose context. And so what helped me a lot was there are a couple of videos online that summarized and recapped the story. You know, if you're watching like an old anime like Dragon Ball Z and you start an episode and they say things like in the last episode, and then they show you what happened in the last episode to catch you up and like jog your memory of where you were, and then the new episode starts. It's kind of like that. So I found some YouTube videos for the Limsa Lominsa starting lore, and I found YouTube videos about the storyline for my job, which is the same as a class if you come from WoW. And like I watched it up to the point where I left off, I paused, and then I went straight back into the game. And maintaining that context, if you're going to take breaks or if you've been rusty, helps quite a lot. I'm not going to lie. And so those are all the things that I've done to maintain context. In the description, I'll link the Realm Reborn cinematic. I'll link the Limsa Lominsa starting lore that I used that helped me as well. And I'm a rogue, and so I'll link the rogue lore video that I've used as well that helped me. Although you might not be someone who starts in Lim Solo Mensa, and you might not be someone who starts off as a rogue. So if that's the case, perhaps you're gonna have to find your own videos. I'll just share the ones that I've used myself. Now, besides knowing the starting context in the game, I think some things that have helped enhance my experience is one, paying for the game off the bat. Now, I know it comes with a free trial up till Heaven's Ward, and that free trial is limited, and you're mostly limited in a lot of the social aspects. So you can't send tells or whispers, you can't join a free company, you can't form parties, and if you're someone who's playing it primarily as a single story or single player RPG, this might be okay. But I'm an ex-WoW guy. I'm a WoW refugee. And so the MMO element is really important to me. And I found being able to talk to people, and people are so nice in this game, and being able to talk to them and interact with them and join a free company has really enhanced my experience quite a bit. And it's made me really enjoy the game a lot. And so just paying for the game off the bat has helped me enjoy the experience more. And another misconception I had when I first started this game almost a year ago now was that people wouldn't be accepting to me in game. And I thought this because, well, I've traditionally had a lot of tendencies which are, a lot more gung ho, they're a lot more ruha. Like, I'm interested by things like bodybuilding and business and these, really I don't want to say aggressive, but like intense hobbies and interests. And I had a misconception that people in the game, were hostile towards people like me. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And what confirmed this to be true for me is that I've made videos now on the topic of this game in World of Warcraft, and I've had a lot of people who play Final Fantasy and who are very, enthusiastic about Final Fantasy 14 interact with my videos, like my videos, comment on my videos, and say, "Welcome to Eorzea, you are welcome." And I'm not being represented by an avatar. I'm me. I put myself into these videos. You can hear my voice. You can, listen to me talk about my thoughts, and you could see who I am and how I look like. And y'all have been super accepting to me, not just my character in game, but me as a human being here on this YouTube channel. And that's what confirmed to me that no, there is a place for you. There is a place for someone who isn't traditionally into JRPGs and who isn't traditionally into, kumbaya sort of settings. But as long as you're not toxic, and as long as you are as accepting of others as they are to you, you will have a good time in this game. Like, there is a place for you as well, and that's a misconception I had initially. Now, another thing that's really helped me enjoy the game a lot is role playing properly. And like, this is something that I think is going to be very individualized to the person. So I personally am someone who gets immersed in games where I could see myself in the character I'm playing. I like playing a character in an immersive world that I can relate to. And so I made a higher, which is kind of like a human in game, and I made a midlander, which is just the type of higher that has physical traits that most resemble mine. I made a guy with someone with a skin tone that like mine who has the same scruff that I have. The only thing I couldn't match was the buzz cut, but I made him look as close to me as I could. And being someone in game that matches who I am in real life has helped me a lot with Immersion and it has made the game more enjoyable. Now, I also play a rogue. I've been playing rogues in video games and RPGs since I was 12 years old. And there's something about playing a rogue. It's the pragmatism, the sheer analytical, mercenary pragmatism that comes with being a rogue. Warriors are a little bit more aggressive and like rage and like and chargy and like emotional, but like the cold analytical pragmatism with rogues is something I've really vibed with. And so having that match both in the character model as well as my job really helped me get immersed. Now, you might be someone who doesn't get immersed by playing yourself in video games. You might be someone who gets immersed by being somebody else. Now, I have someone in my free company who played World of Warcraft initially, and they played a Night Elf Druid. And so they play a cat girl, which is a Matoke in Final Fantasy XIV. And this is a fantasy that suits them. And so you might not be someone who wants to see yourself in the game, but you might have a specific fantasy that appeals to you. And adhering to that fantasy really, I think, helps with enjoyment. And I realize how serious this is when I see some of my friends who, although would love games like Lost Ark, avoid Lost Ark because Lost Ark has gender locked classes. And they are like me, where they want to, have themselves represented in game. And if they're a female in real life and they're gender locked to be a male in game, or if they're a male in real life and they're gender locked to be a female in game, if they want to play the class or the job that they want to play, that's going to create a worse experience for them. And I'm realizing now, more recently, how important it is. And really, the last thing I want to say that's helped me really get immersed into the game and enjoy it is you might be a little taken aback by the UI, and literally just the UI, like the font, like little things like that, the color of the menus, things like that might be a little weird to you, especially if you're like me and you've come from WoW. But these things will grow on you over time, and they will become second nature, and they will feel eventually, they have to me so far, just like home as much as World of Warcraft does. And that's it for this video. I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience with A Realm Reborn and how much fun I'm having with it, and how harmful I feel like the sentiment that A Realm Reborn is a slog can be, especially to new players, and especially since first impressions really do matter. And that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.